Little Cup just released a metagame survey, and this metagame survey is going to be used to determine future suspect tests and bans. So make sure to fill out the survey, and I will be linking the survey in the description below. So what you should do is you should watch this video, understand a few of the concepts that are going on, and then go to the description and then fill out the form yourself. And it's okay if you don't play Little Cup too often or you're not the best player. This is meant for the entire community, and that includes you. So let's get right into it. So what is my Smogon name? What is my Discord tag? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you enjoy the current metagame? Now, in general, I do like Little Cup metagames because they're very nice, they're very offensive. So it'll be definitely in the higher range. And I really don't like Scraggy. Scraggy is what's going to keep me from giving it like a 9 or a 10. And in general, I don't have too many complaints besides Scraggy. And I'm never really going to put anything in this I hate the meta category. That's just not, I don't really hate metagames. The only metagames that I would maybe even think about putting in a lower tier are something like, for example, Generation 2 OU. I don't really love those type of stally metagames, and the distinction I draw is that, for example, in Gen 8 OU, it can be a stally game, but you have that choice. You have that choice of deciding, okay, I will use hyper offense or I will use offense. Typically in tiers like Generation 2 OU, you don't really have that option. And you do have things like boom offense, but they're still typically longer games. I only really put metagames like that lower. So here I'll put maybe a 7 or an 8. I'll put a 7, right? I do like Little Cup. It's overall a very fun tier. Just Scraggy is what's keeping me from putting it higher. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you enjoy LC across the generation? And again, I'm going to put this pretty high, 7, 8, 9, 10 maybe. Overall, I can't really complain. It's not like I am like jumping out of my seat to play the metagame, but it's decent, it's good, right? So I'm not going to complain too much. I'll give it an 8 because in the past we did have Vullaby, which kept Scraggy in check. And yeah, Scraggy is my main problem right now with the metagame. So if you were to ban one thing in the current iteration of Little Cup, what would it be? Obviously Scraggy, as you've heard me say. But why is that, right? So Scraggy's Dragon Dance set is really powerful and it's almost impossible to stop, right? Like fairies aren't good in the metagame, but you can use them. But in general, it's so tough to stop Scraggy from Dragon Dancing because it has so much bulk and power, and then once it gets Moxie boosts going up, it's really tough to stop. And I really hate playing against it because it feels like I have to build my entire team with Scraggy in mind, because simply having a fight resist is not enough, because if that resist gets chipped down, then Scraggy with a Moxie boost can beat it, for example. So Scraggy definitely goes up there. And what do I think about Sticky Webs? And this is a bit of a controversial opinion, but I do not think Sticky Webs is that good. A lot of people want it banned, but I just don't see it being the threat people claim it to be. Because there are so many things that Sticky Webs has to worry about. So for example, it has to worry about Defog Timber. It has to worry about Grookey. You need a Grookey check on your Sticky Webs teams, right? The only thing that really stands out for me on Sticky Webs is Scraggy on Sticky Webs. Because of your Choice Scarf won't work in Sticky Webs, right? So Scraggy becomes really good in Sticky Webs. That's the main abuser. So I've mentioned all these things like Grookey and Scraggy, Grookey and Timber. And you do have other defog options like Defog Archon, Defog Cottony. But the main thing that sticks out for me, like why Sticky Web isn't ban worthy, because if you remember last generation, Generation 7, Sticky Webs was banned. So the difference between Generation 7 and Generation 8 is the lack of a powerful abuser. So in Generation 7, you pretty much had Life Orb Abra, which was really strong, really powerful, really fast, and that basically defined webs. But now you don't really have Life Orb Abra, because Life Orb Abra lost hidden power, so it's walled by steel types now. So in general, there's not really a broken abuser of Sticky Web. So basically you really have, for example, Life Orb Natu, maybe, right? Scraggy, as I mentioned earlier, but you don't really have that completely overwhelming breaker. Sticky Webs to me is like a good offensive team. It's fun, it has its uses, but overall there's nothing overwhelming about it. There is no Life Orb Abra that'll just make you lose on the spot. So for that reason, I don't think Sticky Web is ban worthy. It's just another tool in the toolkit. It's something you can work with on an offensive team. Maybe you think it's a good idea for this particular build, but it's not really overwhelming in any way. So 2, right? And then, do I believe Scraggy is ban-worthy? Yes, I do. And now we move on to Grookey. Grookey is interesting. Grookey, well, see, if you look at Grookey, like what checks it, we'll go to the viability rankings. And these are a little outdated, but they should be good enough for our purpose. Grookey is basically checked by Fungus and Coughing, but Fungus can lose to, for example, Grassy Seed Acrobatics, but overall these two are good enough checks. And then you have something like Ponyta, which is much better. This is an outdated ranking. Ponyta is much better than B+, so you pretty much have Ponyta, Coughing, Fungus as like your hard counters, and then you have Natu, which isn't on the list right now. But the reason why I don't feel Grookey is that broken is because it's relatively easy to play around, because a lot of it is predictions, right? So say you have a Grookey versus a Staryu with Ice Beam, right? So as the Grookey user, you can Grassy Glide or you can Swords Dance, right? But there's a lot of risk in just Swords Dancing, because what if the Staryu uses Ice Beam and kills you, right? So you have to be a little careful, and it becomes a bit difficult to actually predict. Like, you have to Swords Dance predicting Fungus, or do you attack predicting the Stay-In? And on top of that, Mianfu can Regenerator pivot into Grookey, which is a little annoying too. And then right now, Life Orb Grookey is probably the best set, but if you're not running Life Orb Grookey, you have an issue with power. You're not actually strong enough to get those one-hit KOs. So it's a bit of a trade-off, and Grookey is a very good Pokemon, don't get me wrong, but is it broken, right? Is it a broken Pokemon? And I'm not sure about that. Maybe in the future it could be broken, but I just don't feel it in practice because of all the practical implications that come in, like having to deal with a Mianfu who can regenerate or pivot, having to deal with making the right prediction every single time, you know, having to make that trade-off between Grassy Seed Acrobatics and Life Orb, making that trade-off with power. And there are hard counters like Coughing, and if you really want to, you can use Trapinch with First Impression, right? So there are so many trade-offs that I'm not convinced Grookey is ban-worthy, but it is a very good Pokemon, and maybe in the future I'll change my mind, but right now I don't think Grookey is ban-worthy. So is there anything else you believe to be ban-worthy in the current metagame? Nothing really. Those are the three main ones, so nothing there. What is the strongest Pokemon in the current metagame? Either Scraggy or Mianfu, and I'm going to put Scraggy because it's just really that good. And I don't think I need to explain any more why I think that. Is there any Pokemon that is unexplored in the current metagame? This is an interesting question. Right off the bat, I'll have to say Zigzagoon. Zigzagoon, I've made a video about this earlier, but Zigzagoon is really good right now. So, but you do see it often on the ladder, so I don't know if it's unexplored as such, but I think I will consider it unexplored because you don't see it too much. I don't know how to spell Zigzagoon either. Zigzagoon, there we go, okay. And briefly explain what you think of the current metagame in a few sentences. Let me think. Offense, good. That's one thing I think. What else do I think about the metagame? To be honest, that's my main opinion about the metagame right now. Offense, good. Scraggy, broken. That's what I think right now. Anything else you want to add? No, nothing else. So I'll submit this right now. And yeah, that's my opinion on the Little Cup survey. And as mentioned earlier, go down to the description below to actually fill it out yourself, because it is important that your opinion gets heard. But yeah, thank you.